Here's some ocean facts, but they gradually get more terrifying and disturbing as the video progresses. The ocean covers about 70% of the Earth's surface, and due to all the plankton inside the ocean, it actually produces the majority of the oxygen that we breathe. Some parts of the ocean are extremely isolated and lonely. This is Point Nemo. It is the furthest place away from land. People in the International Space Station are actually closer to this area than anyone on land, and this is where the bloop came from. As of 2020, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, about 20% of the ocean has been discovered, leaving 80% up for grabs. And in the ocean, there are some terrifying creatures of all sorts of shapes, sizes, and colors. As you get deeper into the ocean, the creatures start to look even more and more alien because they live in an environment so different from ours. What's craziest is the deadliest animal in the ocean, the box jellyfish, actually lives in shallow coastal waters near beaches, and you can't even see it, but it can kill you in under 2 minutes. And last but certainly not least, the ocean is filled with dead bodies. As a matter of fact, there are more dead bodies in the ocean than there are in every single grave on land, so have fun with that.
Tips that you probably didn't know that could one day save your life. We're at a beach and you see the water is receding, or it's very, very far from where it usually is, you need to run fast. Most of the time, this means a tsunami is coming and you won't have much time. If you're a girl and live alone, put a dirty, large pair of men's work boots right outside your door. This will give an illusion that there's a big, tough man at your home, and they're less likely to intrude. Wolves will only attack you if they can intimidate you to run away from them. Standing your ground against a wolf pack may be intimidating and may go against your instincts, but eventually they'll leave you alone. And if your car ever goes into the water, you need to open the door or the window immediately. If you don't do this, the pressure will...
Here's some things that I know about the ocean that heavily influence me to stay on shore when I go to the beach. So you know when you see underwater photos and there are these like little white specks? Well, those are called marine snow, and what they are essentially just organic debris, aka chunks of rotting fish flesh falling to the ocean floor. So enjoy your next swim and keep your mouth closed. Riptides, bro. So if you don't know what riptides are, they're basically narrow currents of water caused by the tides that pull the water back in the opposite direction of the shore. Now, if you get caught in one and you're not calm and you panic, odds are it's going to pull you out into the ocean and you're just going to keep fighting it until you get exhausted to the point that you drown. According to the United States Life-Saving Association, these things kill over 100 people a year. And consider that that is just in the US. If I ever got caught in one of these, all that would be on my mind is that I was going to get dragged out to the depths of the ocean and get eaten by the Kraken. So rockfish are these little fish that just chill at the bottom of the ocean floor. Can you see him on first glance in this photo? Exactly. They're very good at camouflaging themselves as harmless rocks. If you step on one, they'll shoot out these little dorsal spines out of their back that inject venom into your foot and can cause a lot of pain and infection. But hey, don't worry, there are a multitude of other fish within the same species, some of which their venom is deadly, and also they can be found all over the world. Isn't that awesome?
Yo, all hands, hoist the colors high, heave ho, thieves and beggars, never shall we die.
Terrifying Ways to Go, Episode 9. Hisashi Aoji, the most radiated man in history. On September 30th of 1999, Hisashi, along with a few co-workers, had began the process of mixing uranium into enriched uranium to later be used for nuclear purposes. But little did they know, the men had already far surpassed the amount needed of 5.4 pounds, with Hisashi standing over the tank adding in their 35th pound, more than 6 times what was actually needed. When all of a sudden, a bright blue flash rips through the entire room. And while everyone inside had been exposed to dangerous levels of radiation, Hisashi had been blasted with more than 2 times the lethal dose. Well, immediately, Hisashi can be heard screaming out in agony, as he was instantaneously suffering from immense radiation burns all over his entire body. And within just a couple of minutes, he is also suffering extreme bouts of nausea. Now, during the first few days of his treatment, it was quickly determined there wasn't really much they could do for him. I mean, his DNA had quite literally been obliterated and his white blood cell count was virtually non-existent. It was at this point they sent him to another hospital hospital located in Tokyo. And this is where the true horror began. You see, Hisashi had officially become the most radiated person in history. And rather than keeping him comfortable, they essentially take this opportunity to study its effects on the human body, all the while performing a series of highly invasive tests while keeping him alive for as long as they possibly could. Fairly quickly on, his skin begins to quite literally just fall off. And amid countless skin grafts and various other treatments, absolutely not a single one of them would take. Thus, they would have to end up wrapping his entire body in bandages, which would also have to be periodically changed, in a process that was said to be more painful than anyone could possibly imagine. Well, 59 days after this incident, Hisashi finally went into cardiac arrest. Not once, not twice, but 3 times in a single hour. And against his own will, every single time, they resuscitated him, keeping him alive for another 24 days while continuing to perform these excruciating tests. Which brings us to 83 days after the incident had occurred. Hisashi finally succumbed one final time. That being said, this incident, along with the experiments that followed, officially went down as one of the most
10 facts you didn't know that could save your life. If your house ever smells like fish for no reason, 9 times out of 10, it's because there's an electrical fire. If you're in a foreign country and you need to call for help, but you don't know the emergency number, call 112 and it'll automatically connect you to the nearest helpline. If a tornado looks like it's not moving, it's actually moving towards you. If you ever wake up to the smell of gas, don't turn on a light. The spark from the light switch could blow up your entire house. Lying flat on your back is the best way to survive a falling elevator. If your hair ever stands up, duck and cover because you're about to be struck by lightning. If you ever fall off the edge onto the tracks, don't try and crawl back up. There's a crawl space built to go underneath in case this happens. If a deer runs across the road, it's better to hit it than swerve into the ditch. But if it's a moose, then it's better to swerve into the ditch, because hitting a moose is like hitting a brick wall. Even if you have no service, you can still dial 911. In an emergency, your phone will connect to the nearest tower. If you ever get kidnapped into the back of a vehicle, disconnect the brake light wires so the cops will pull them over. Then kick on the door to let them know that you're there.
Scariest Facts You Didn't Know, Part 30. On September 30th, 1999, Hisashi Achi was exposed to so much radiation that his body lost the ability to replicate cells. This caused his cells to start decaying as if he was dead despite still being alive. Apparently, the pain was so great he wished for death. Unfortunately, doctors refused to allow him to die because they had never seen a patient with such severe radiation sickness and believed that the documentation of his very slow and painful death would somehow prove useful. After a few weeks, his skin began to fall off. His entire body was wrapped in bandages, and his limbs were barely attached. This torture went on for 83 days. Scary facts about dreams you didn't know about. If you ever see a man dressed in all black, force yourself to wake up, because it could end in a horrifying nightmare.
Oh, so you want to know about Cthulhu? I got you. He's part of a godlike race called the Great Old Ones, and he comes from another planet. The story goes that he traveled to Earth and landed in the Pacific Ocean, where he's been sleeping ever since. First off, he's immortal and unkillable. As well, he has infinite psychic abilities, which means he knows everything that's happening everywhere in the multiverse all at once. And his most famous ability is that he's completely uncomprehendable, meaning anybody that's ever looked at him has went crazy. Your eyes cannot comprehend it. And other than he comes from another planet, his origins are a mystery because he's said to be older than the universe itself.
Terrifying Ocean Facts Part 1. Number 1. Sunlight only penetrates around 330 feet into the ocean, which means around 94% of the world's oceans are in a state of constant darkness. Number 2. The ocean is teeming with eddies, which are similar to black holes. These eddies often measure up to 93 miles in diameter. Number 3. Hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor can reach temperatures of 700 degrees Celsius. And can be up to 18 stories tall. Number 4. It is estimated that there are 3 million shipwrecks in the ocean. Number 5, and the ocean holds around 20 million tons of lost gold valuing $1,146 trillion. Number 6, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch sits between California and Hawaii, is around 600,000 square miles, twice the size of Texas. Number 7, we have only managed to explore 5% of the ocean. Number 8, lost sailors in the ocean who cling to wreckage have their skin dissolved by salt water after 3 days.